creating sounds born out of Japan's spirit.
I knew I always wanted to be in the arts, so I started out as a ballet dancer, and then I had quite a black swan moment where I got to 18 and I suddenly discovered jazz music and house music and clubs and this different world, which was somewhat of an underworld compared to the ballet world. So that was my new journey into this world of music, which I completely pursued 100%. And this took me to Portugal, which I really first started my live music scene. I recorded my first album, started working with lots of DJs. And 2010, I came to Asia when the economic crisis happened, actually. So all the gigs dried up in Portugal. And I got offered a gig at a jazz bar in Cambodia, out of all places. So 2010 I came to Cambodia and I've been in Asia since. And I've been non-stop singing and I've been writing music and I've got some great songs that's on the go. And yeah, it's just been a beautiful journey.
And how was that transformation from someone who was like communicating with the audience with the body language as a ballerina to someone who is actually performing art by singing? How was that transformation for you?
It was quite a transformation, yeah. And especially from ballet, where you're trained to be so upright, you know, and you're walking around with this piece of string that's pulling you up and, you know, you've got your hands like that. It's all about etiquette and being polite and, you know, and then music, especially jazz, it's just so free. It's so raw. It's so, you're really just giving from your soul through song and through sound. It's so different. And it did take me quite a while actually to really break down that mold. And I was singing before, but the singing that I was doing before was more, again, stage stuff. So it's more operatic or musical theatre. So it's all very technically trained and, again, having to break all that down as well. Yeah, it was an experience, but I got there. Yeah.
So when do you feel more like yourself, like this is who I am, like when you're performing ballet or when you're singing?
Oh, for sure singing. And I haven't danced. I gave up dancing. I gave up ballet seriously when I was 18 and then I dabbled with it. It actually is what took me to Portugal, which is great because then from Portugal onwards, that's when my music career really progressed. And I did 3 years working in a dance company in Portugal. But I knew then at the end of my contract, I knew before actually, but I knew at the end of my contract in Portugal that I needed to do something more. I had a love and a passion for dance, but I knew that I wanted to go venture off into this new direction of singing, and I felt that was my calling. I felt that I had this driving desire inside. So, yeah.
And the transformation was strictly from ballet to jazz, or you have like fado in Portugal, or what was like the step in between, or it was just from ballet to jazz? Yeah.
No, I dabbled quite a bit. I had to find myself. I had to find my voice and my style. And I was so young when I decided I didn't want to do ballet, just ballet. So from 18 to 25, I was exploring, as I mentioned originally, musical theatre, opera. Then I left my dance college and I did Pop Idol, the first Pop Idol competition in 2001 or 2, I can't remember. And I got to the finals of that. So that was my first introduction to pop music. And then I started working with DJs. I got picked up on a few things. So then I started working with dance music. So I had all these different experiences and you know, at the time I was jumping for every opportunity because I wanted to, and I wanted to explore these different genres and this new world of music for me. But it really wasn't until I found jazz, and that was Portugal, after this dancing contract, where I really I just knew this was my genre. It just felt it felt effortless. It felt more musical. It felt more freeing. It felt beautiful. Yeah, it was beautiful.
And then you move from Portugal, which is a Mediterranean country, to Asia. Again, big transformation. So how was that transformation and how did you find to live in Asia compared with Europe?
Oh, such a culture shock. I loved so much Portugal. I really did. And like I mentioned with regards to my music, well, Portugal was very good for me. I did my first rock pop festival at Rock in Rio, which was performing for thousands of people on the same day's bill as Elton John. I toured the country, but so when things dried up in Portugal, it was pretty sad because I didn't really want to leave, but I was ready for a new adventure. And when I got to Asia, going straight to Cambodia, which is such a beautiful, it has such a sad recent history, but it's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to. The people are so, just so beautiful. Mm-hmm. But it was my first time in Asia, so it was a complete culture shock, and I actually had no clue what to expect. So getting off the plane, and then just being exposed to this kind of raw, authentic Asian culture was just a shock to the system, but just eye-opening, and I fell in love straight away.
And then from Cambodia, you moved to Bali, or you have lived in some other countries as well?
That was 2010. So from Cambodia, I mean, things just spiraled from then. In Cambodia, we had, the clientele were, like the royal family of Cambodia and very high society people, and I would do a gig there, and then I would get invited to do a gig in, say, Singapore, and then Penang, and then it kind of worked like that for pretty much 10 years. So I was traveling around the region, Southeast Asia mainly, for the majority of the decade, doing just fantastic gigs for private events and hotels and music festivals. And I spent a lot of time in Hong Kong, and that's where I came from prior to Bali. And the reason I'm in Bali is the lockdown period. So I got here in March. But it's quite a change from being in Hong Kong for 3 years, that's for sure. So it's really nice to be here, absolutely.
So how many languages you can speak right now?
Oh, don't embarrass me. No, I don't. A little bit ashamed. I speak Portuguese. I speak English. I'm trying to learn a bit of Bahasa now. I learned a tiny bit of Thai, a tiny bit of Khmer.
Wow.
I mean, to be honest, I've been so fortunate everywhere that I've traveled, everyone speaks English, but I've never really been anywhere so long for me to learn. I mean, in Hong Kong, yes, but everybody speaks English there, and I was so busy with work, it's so awful to admit. But Portugal, I did learn a bit of the language, and it's a tough one to master, but it's a great one. I think I've really grown into myself musically, especially over the past few years. Like I mentioned, 25, I really knew jazz was more of the direction I wanted to go in. Mm-hmm. And then I started working on an album about 4 years ago. And with this album, and I'm slowly starting to release the music and the singles actually, but with this album, it just really seems to resonate and reflect who I am as a woman, as a human, as an artist. The lyrics, the stories I tell through the music, a lot is as much about love or romance, but the vibe is very feminine, very chill, very down tempo, very sensual, and I really think I found myself musically. So everything that I listen to and perform now really reflects who I am as a woman, and I really like to tell my story now through song, obviously, and through the lyrics in my songs.
How, Zoe, during this 2020, I can imagine many live events, not many, maybe all of them are cancelled. And you are in such a beautiful place such as Bali, but do you have opportunity to perform, and how that works, and how that affects actually your business as well?
Well, actually, it's kind of worked in my favor in a way. I really worked myself silly in Hong Kong. And prior to that, as I mentioned, I've been working pretty much non-stop in Asia, and not just work, but traveling and gigging, and these gigs are quite often late nights. So there was a lot of work that I was doing. So to be honest, I was quite ready for a little pause, and the timing was kind of perfect. My last singing commitment ended on the 16th of March in Hong Kong. And I had to leave Hong Kong the next day due to visa reasons. You know, I was on a work permit. And then I couldn't go back to Hong Kong because of the COVID restrictions. So then I was in this limbo land of, you know, where do I go for lockdown? And I ended up in Bali. I had 2 days to figure out where I was going, and everywhere was shutting. So I managed to get to Bali just in time before they closed the borders. And it's really just what I needed. You know, I really needed this rest time and this rejuvenating time and this time just to be, it sounds odd, but just to be kind of a normal human being and to not put the makeup on. Not singing is beautiful, but if you overdo it sometimes, you know, especially to the jazzy clientele in these fast-paced cities, it can, you know, it can get a little bit too much sometimes. So I feel Bali for me is really, really nourishing my soul, and it's just what I needed. And I'm really using this time to not only do self-development on myself, but to really work on my music, online presence, the branding and the marketing, as you're a specialist with. I've written so many songs, as I mentioned, about, you know, over the past few years, that I've actually been so busy with my gigs that I haven't had time to really focus on releasing. So that's really my main priority now, is getting my beautiful music out there, getting onto Spotify playlists, getting nice videos done for YouTube, etc. And it feels so good for my soul. It's very nourishing. You know, it feels a little bit more organic, authentic me right now, you know. Just to compare to maybe more of a corporate side of gig life I had in Hong Kong.
Hong Kong.
Music. So it's like my musical world is all online now. I do the live streams, I do music videos. It's all online. And there, you know, in Bali, of course, you need a visa to do the gigs, but they don't even have the gigs available yet. There are some DJ gigs popping up, and but it's not the right time to be out performing. And you know, the online presence is again, it's just great timing for me, because I really needed to focus on this and to push my online branding and my music that needs to be shown to the world.
How people can enjoy your music online? What do you recommend us where to go first?
Well, the main one is Spotify. So if you have an account with Spotify, you should just search my name, which is Zoey Jones, Zoey Jones. And you will see all of my releases, and my most recent release, which is Just Let Me, is doing very well. So that's already featured on quite a few playlists. And my Instagram, which is Zoey C. Jones, and there I post all my little updates on behind the scenes shots of music videos or new releases, or just little updates in general. Facebook, Zoey Jones, and YouTube is Zoey the Jones. So you can catch up with everything that I'm up to on these platforms pretty much, yeah.
And my surprising question to you, if you have opportunity to build your team, to build your band, who will be the people who you would like to work with? DJ or bass guitar? Or
my band?
Yes.
Oh,
if you can pick for whoever you want, doesn't matter how famous or not famous they are.
This is a question. Oh my goodness. Oh. Let's say maybe Steve Tyler on the guitar. Oh, this is an interesting combination. I don't know. Maybe Moby on the keys or the pads. Or a good pianist. I'm not too sure. Or a good guitarist. I'd probably bring in a Brazilian guitarist. Maybe a Brazilian bassist. And I'd probably bring in a good friend of mine from England who plays fantastic keys.
And what is his name or her name?
Dan Hewson. He's going to love me for this little pitch. Yeah, he's a good, very good pianist.
Zoe, thank you so much for sharing your talent, for sharing your amazing story, how you transform your life, but you are still in art, which is amazing, and how you're using this break actually to build your brand online and the art is with you and you cannot escape, and that's the most important things. And we all know this pandemic will finish one day, and then we all looking forward to see you in Tokyo or whatever, in Asia or in Europe. So looking forward to listen your music, enjoy your music, and thank you to be a part of our community.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.